Getting started on a 2-piece set. I have 4 yards of this kind of blue and gold jersey fabric, and just laying out my pieces to make sure that I have enough room. I'm making 2 patterns from Petite Stitchery. I'm making the Remy pattern again, but this time I'm using the vertical ruche detail instead of the horizontal ruche detail. We'll see how that goes. And then I am making their adult Yoggers pants. I'm going to lengthen them probably 4 inches just so they're long enough, but I think I have enough yardage. I have 4 yards of this, and so I think I should be good. Hello and welcome back to my channel. In this video I will be showing the process by which I made a nice knit fabric casual set, all from an independent pattern company called Petite Stitchery & Co. I used a free pattern and a paid pattern. So this first pattern I used is the adult Yoggers, like jogger pants, but Yoggers. And the pattern is free on their website. It's a kind of like a sweatpants type of pants. They have the option to have pockets. They're kind of slim legged, and they have a cuff at the ankles and a drawstring waistband. And so with this pattern, you have the option to make them as long or short as you want. They have lines for shorts, Bermuda length, capri, and pants length. I chose to do the pants length, and I lengthened them by 4 inches at the bottom, which was absolutely necessary. I could have definitely gone longer for my inseam, but 4 inches was pretty good for me. I actually made these for my mother, and she likes them, so that length worked out. But if I were to make these again, I probably would go a little longer, maybe 5 inches instead of 4. But anyway, so these pants were pretty easy. You only needed about 4 or 5 pattern pieces for the front leg, back leg, pockets, and the waistband and cuff. And the pockets on these are interesting because they're like slanted pockets. They're not, I guess, inset pockets. And so you have to cut 2 pieces of the pocket each, and one set of the pockets you cut a slant in them, and those will be the front of the pocket, and then the back of the pocket is the full pocket shape or pattern piece. And so that worked out well. Yeah, I had to be careful because when you sew the pocket into the side seam, I didn't catch the full length of the slanted pocket, so there was a little piece that was hanging off that wasn't finished. And so I definitely need to be careful next time when I'm sewing these, if I make these again, to make sure that the pockets are all the way lined up with the inseam or with the side seam of the pants, so none of the seams or edges are loose at the end of the day. But for these Yoggers, I used my serger mostly, which I think was helpful. And I haven't learned exactly how to measure seam allowance on my serger. So I don't know if I was following the seam allowance that were in the pattern, which I think is 3/4 or 3/8, one or the other. But I think it turned out okay anyway. The knit fabric that I used for these pants was very stretchy and kind of thin, and so if I were to make these again with a different knit fabric, maybe a thicker, less stretchy fabric, it might look a little different. With these, they can easily stretch, and so it's very forgiving in terms of the size that you chose. But if you go too large, it's definitely going to slouch a lot. So I would probably suggest the size, do your regular size or size down if you have really stretchy fabric, unless you like the slouchy look. For the waistband, the instructions wanted me to put in buttonholes using my machine, but instead of buttonholes, I decided to do eye grommets, eyelet grommets, since I have those on hand, and I put some interfacing on the inside of the waistband before putting the grommet holes in the waistband, and I'm hoping that that helps the material not to deteriorate over time, since the material is a little thinner. But I just thought the grommets would be easier than trying to do buttonholes, since I've never done buttonholes before. I think it looked pretty good, and I was able to put the drawstring in the grommet easily. As for the drawstring, the pattern doesn't give you a pattern piece for the drawstring. It just says, cut out a certain length of fabric and create tubes. But I did not want to make tubes, especially with this very thin and curly fabric, and it reminded me of t-shirt material, so I figured I could just cut a small, maybe 1 inch thick string and pull on it and make it look like a string, and then just put a knot at the ends, and I think that worked well. And so the pants turned out very nice, and my mother loves them. Now, to go with the pants, I decided to make another of their patterns, the Remy sweater. I purchased this pattern, and I actually made another version of the Remy sweater in another video using like a sweatshirt fleece type material. So that came out different than this one that's coming out, and I did a different version. So the Remy sweater, you can either have the horizontal drawstring at the hem, or you have the option to have a vertical ruching drawstring element to the shirt. So for this one, I decided to do the vertical ruching, just meaning you're putting like ties in them kind of on the side front of the sweater to give it an interesting detail. And for that, I decided I wanted to serge the edges of the pattern pieces instead of having the edges be raw. And I noticed with this material, especially when I'm serging just a single layer, my serger is kind of bunching up now. I don't know if it's tension disc getting loose or tighter, or if something's wrong with my machine, or it's the material. But I was able to kind of straighten it out as I went along, and made it work. But anyway, for the vertical drawstrings, I did do it per the instructions by making tubes with the material instead of doing the single string drawstring. I did make tubes, serged them together, and turned them out. And I think that looks better, especially since it's a more visible element of the design. Then I simply drew the tubes through the channels in the front of the shirt and sewed them at the top. So they were attached at the shoulder part of the shirt and dangling out of the end. And this pattern, after you do the ruching or the vertical ruching detail in the front piece, the rest of the pattern pieces or the rest of the pattern instructions are pretty easy. You put the front to the back at the shoulders, and then you put the sleeves at the shoulder seams. I did the flat method of the sleeve insertion, and then I just sewed up the sides of the shirt from the side of the shirt all the way to the end of the sleeves. Now with this pattern, the front part of the shirt is shorter than the back, but when I tried to hem the front at first and tried to iron it down, the material did melt, so I had to cut off a little bit of the front and re-sew it down. So When I tried it on, the front was like a couple inches shorter than the back, but my mom still likes it. This is her in the final outfit, and I think she really likes it. Let me know what you think in the comments. Thanks for watching.